Hi, my name is Adam Shoemaker, and I'm rector at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Charleston. And I'm here with our clergy team, and we're going to focus this month's clergy conversation on Christmas. As we get closer to the Christmas season, we'll be talking about traditions in our lives that have been meaningful, as well as how we might think about marking this season as we continue to have to deal with the COVID pandemic and the need to stay safe and to stay home and social distance. And then I'll have some reminders at the end for upcoming Christmas opportunities this season at St. Stephen's. So I'll begin by turning it over to our deacon, Greg Smith. Greg, what have been some Christmas traditions or ways that you have marked the Christmas season in your life?
Well, the first memory that comes to me when you say that is I grew up a family of 4 boys, and so lots of activity in the house. And during Advent, every year, never stopped. About 2 weeks before Christmas, a package would arrive at our house. It was always wrapped exactly the same way in brown paper, had some brown kind of like cord-like string on it, neatly tied. Everything was bound up tight. And it was always addressed to the Smith boys. And we knew exactly what it was. And the post, we're used to getting packages every day now, but getting a package when I was growing up was a big deal. So the postman would always, and it was always a man, the postman always brought this to our house, and the minute it arrived, we went crazy because we knew exactly what it was. So we just would rip into it. And what my grandmother would do, she'd spend some concerted time baking special cookies. Gingerbread man, everything was decorated with little things, and she knew how to, make gingerbread, and then things that she was German, so it was wonderful, tasty cookies with lots of floured sugar on it and things. Anyway, it was a joy, and what it reminds me, and I tried to bring this into as I raised our family, the importance of bringing authentic joy into our individual lives or our family lives. So we have a large spectrum. I mean, I feel like I've yet have memories of childhood, memories of family, and now memories as a grandfather. And so things that will bring authentic joy and meaning. With our children, we always tried to do things around Advent and Christmas that help the children look at themselves and people around them. So things like during Advent, and this always either happened at Christmas or at Thanksgiving, we would have a family project of helping someone else. Sometimes we would go to a homeless shelter and greet and feed people that were homeless, or we'd sign up for Meals on Wheels and bring meals to shut-ins. And it was a time of meaning, but also a time of joy. We would also, I remember through our church, go out and sing Christmas carols to nursing home, or, and it was a time that I learned the things that brought meaning because I hear back from my grown children now of what they remember. And those were 2. I think we always tried to try and slow things down around Christmas, which was hard. And I think one family tradition that we had is the way we opened presents. um, we always would have some quiet music on. We'd have some candles. Where some places we lived, we could have a fire, some places not. And we'd start out with a time of just talking. Now, this is easier, not so easy when kids were like 3 versus when kids were maybe 13, but it was always an attempt wherever we were in the age of the children. And we would, for instance, read the Christmas story, talk about it. And then as we'd open the gifts, we started a tradition where it would always start with the youngest child, the youngest person. They got to go first. And the rules were only one gift at a time, and we'd enjoy it and talk about it and share with why they got the gift and what they, just things. So it was every time was filled with something special. That moment was a special time for that one child or that one person. I think that I've got lots of other things, but let me just kind of wind up this part of my talk in if during this time as an adult, I try and read with intention, and I try and go inward. So I will read something from Thomas Merton or Thomas Keating, authors that will help me reflect a little bit. There are some, good books like from Henry Nouwen about Christmas and Advent. I always pull those off of my shelf and I try and look at those. But I want to fill my life with light, and it can be a candle, simple lights around the house. I want to fill my life with meaning, so that is readings and prayer. And I want to fill my life with joy. And that's best done for me by reaching out to others. Especially now in this crazy time of COVID, we can't do some of the things we have wanted to do in the past. And so with intention, Lynn and I are going to try and live out some of the traditions that we've incorporated and bring those 3 things back into anything we do: light, joy, and meaning. And I think with the difficulties of this time, that is the best way to find some goodness living within this season.
Thank you so much, Greg. I thought those were beautiful memories and a wonderful reflection. Laura, what have been some meaningful traditions for you around Christmas?
Thanks, Adam. So, like Greg, I think like many of us, I have memories around food and traditions around food. There's a congealed salad we just call green stuff, made of lime jello and cocktail. And I'm sure people think it's vile, but I will defend that to the death. I love it. And I get that only during the holiday season. I'll make that. I make a Yule log every year. I make very good Yule logs. They're my husband's favorite cake, and he only gets them at Christmas to keep it special. Speaking of which, I'm sure he's going to be looking for a Yule log this week, so I do need to make one in the next couple of days. Besides food, even though I am not a musical person, music has been really important to me always around Christmas. I have clergy colleagues that tell me that Christmas does not start until November 25th. You need to be listening to Advent carols, and only then after Advent 1. Y'all, I start listening to Christmas music in a good year right before Halloween. And this year I started like in September, and I'm okay with that. I actually had to ask Amanda when I moved into the office here at St. Stephen's. I was like, "You think I'm weird if you hear Joy to the World and it's like middle of November?" And she said, "No, absolutely not." Um, So I embrace the Christmas music. I have some strong opinions about hymns, which I and other kinds of Christmas carols, which I won't share here because I don't want to alienate anyone. I know that there's a lot of strong emotions around music, but for me, it's been a way to bring a little bit of light in, especially in this year when sometimes it just seems kind of dark and dreary. Just a nice reminder of love and God's presence and the joy that we have in Jesus. It's been a very important practice for me to have that music playing when I'm at home or driving in my car or at work answering emails. And the last tradition that's been important to me and my husband, one that we have started together, has been around Christmas trees. So I learned this the first year I was married to my husband. I'd always put up a tree, but he really loves Christmas trees. So we had in Wilmington, our house was 1,000 square feet, small house, just for the two of us. Here we have a house of a similar size. But in Wilmington, we would have a tree for the main room that I decorated, and I always do like birds and woodland animals, and it's white lights, and I think I'm pretty good at decorating Christmas trees. So it was always this beautiful tribute to nature in our main room, and then we would have a tree in our bedroom that Chris and I would decorate together, and those were more like ornaments we made when we were kids or ornaments people gave us for the bedroom, and then we would have a huge tree that we would put outside on our lawn. And we have outdoor ornaments and outdoor lights, and we didn't have any other lights in our house. We just made that tree as spectacular as we could. So this year, all of our ornaments are still in storage boxes somewhere in the spare bedroom where we're storing all of our boxes. We haven't, we moved on September 30th and I started at St. Stephen's on October 1st. So we haven't had a lot of time to unpack some of, the holiday type things. So they're still in storage. And we've heard that there's a Christmas tree shortage. So when we were thinking about buying trees, we were going, well, should we really get three? And we'd have to unearth our ornaments. And I was feeling kind of down in the dumps about that because it really has been an important tradition for us around the holidays, not being able to do our trees together. But then I noticed that my Christmas cactus is getting ready to bloom. And so what I did is and I've babied this cactus. I think it's bloomed for several years now and it's gotten quite large. So I put it on our coffee table and I put all the presents kind of around it on the coffee table. And so it's this green cactus and it hasn't bloomed yet. So there's these little red buds all over it that kind of look a little bit like Christmas ornaments. So I figured that's our 2020 tree. And it gives me actually a lot of joy to be able to look at that and think, wow, so I didn't get to do my tradition this year of building, making these wonderful trees and decorating them with Chris, but we have this, and it's not what I expected, but it's still beautiful and it's meaningful and still cool. So that for me is my 2020 Christmas and how that tradition has changed based on the circumstances we're finding ourselves in.
Thank you, Laura. That's lovely. How about you, Courtney?
Well, as I've been thinking about this time together, I have realized that our Christmas traditions as a family have really changed over the past 5 years after losing my parents. I grew up with a very, very large extended family, and all 40 of us, we would have kind of our Christmas at home in the morning, and then all 40 of us would get together for just an enormous amount of gifts and a glorious meal, and it just felt big in every way. And after losing my parents, I really had to start thinking differently about traditions and kind of what the holidays would look like. And there's definitely a piece of grieving in that. And so, as I've been thinking about this Christmas with the pandemic, what's interesting is kind of some of the practices that we've put into place, I think, are appropriate also for this year. So, one thing that I've really tried to do over the past 5 years is to really celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. And so, with small kids, we have lots of presents, but oftentimes it's so overwhelming that, they get through 2 or 3 and then they're done and they want to go play. But so what we've done is we've kind of put out a gift from Santa and some gifts from Adam and I. But then we kind of save the other gifts and do maybe one gift each day during the 12 days of Christmas. And we've even thought about themes. So maybe there's a game day and each child gets a new game and then we play games that day. Or maybe it's pajama day and they get new pair of pajamas and we get to stay in our pajamas all day. I think last year we even said you get to make dinner. The kids get to make dinner for the adults, whatever you want to make. And I don't remember what we had, but I'm sure it was marshmallows were involved. But it's a way to kind of spread out the joy through the 12 days and to really celebrate the season of Christmas. And it, as I think about those big, wonderful days growing up, it's kind of like taking that joy and just spreading it, sprinkling it through the 12 days of Christmas. But like Laura and Craig have mentioned, the light, as the days grow darker and continue to be dark, light is really such an important, so important for me. And Greg mentioned a candle, and I plan on getting our kids in the car a couple of times and going to see the lights at James Island County Park. And there are lights at the cistern at the College of Charleston that we'll walk through one evening. And even Theodora Park right here in Anstonboro have beautiful lights up that I think one night, we'll walk over and just enjoy the lights. And so it's just trying to find small things to do each day to and oftentimes, I feel like, we need to do the gingerbread house in Advent and bake cookies. But I've really kind of given myself permission just to spread it all out. And if the Advent, if the Christmas cookies don't get made until December 28th, it's Christmas. And so it's just trying to elongate it as much as possible. So that's what we'll continue to do this year.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed our move as a family to try to stretch out and sort of lift up the fact that Christmas is a season. And for me, I guess I feel much more strongly about preserving that than I do like some clergy wanting to preserve Advent. I mean, what I don't like is like the day after Christmas, seeing people putting their Christmas trees out on the streets, because to me, it's just started, and Christmas is something that can go on. But as a child, I was quite small in New York City, and so Christmas was always just so magical for me. I really got to know New York City as a small boy, thanks to my grandfather, who would always have little adventures for us to go on around New York. And New York City at Christmas time is just amazing. And I remember distinctly as a small boy, it's a very vivid memory, going down Fifth Avenue, and all the shop windows, and we were headed towards Rockefeller Center to see the tree, which always to me is like you're going to see it, but it's always such a surprise. You walk down the blocks and then all of a sudden you turn and you see that enormous tree. But I remember one one season leading up to Christmas, we were walking down Fifth Avenue and it started to snow. And the snow came down that day, in big, huge sort of chunks of snow. And it just felt like we were in the middle of a movie. So, I think going for walks, and like Courtney said, here in Charleston, there's a lot of fun light displays, large and small. And I really would recommend the display at the Cistern. I think the College of Charleston does a lovely job. But going around, even in this strange time, and taking a look at some of the holiday lights, taking in some of the Christmas season. I love the carols, and like you, Laura, love to sing them all year long. In fact, I tend to put our children to sleep by singing them Silent Night all year long. So it's sort of nice now that we're actually in season as I sing that song. And our youngest, her favorite pajamas are Christmas pajamas. So she gives us that Christmas spirit all year long. And I think also, like you, Greg, losing myself in the Christmas story. I was not raised in a very religious household, but my mom would take me to church, and I think Christmas Eve worship, hearing that familiar story being told, sometimes being a part or active participant in telling that story through some kind of a pageant was always a part of the season for me as a kid. And we had an advent calendar that actually looked like a large Christmas tree. And as you open the doors, you would get ornaments that you would put on the tree. But then the last stretch of days, which would be the bottom of the tree leading up to Christmas, you would start getting little wooden creche pieces out. And then I, as a child, I was raised an only child, so it was just me, taking the pieces out and arranging them as I wanted to, and putting the creche out, and the wise men and the shepherds, and then of course you'd get the little baby Jesus to put out on Christmas Eve. So, and I think some of those traditions are ones that can be marked to try to find light and joy and meaning even in this strange time. And you've all sort of alluded to ways to mark this season in light of the strange time we're in, but wonder if there are other thoughts, other suggestions for folks listening in about how to mark this season in a time when we can't do some of the things that we might normally do as a family or even as individuals. Courtney?
One thing I forgot to mention, which is really one of our favorite things to do in this area, though we're not able to do it this year, but if you have not done or been able to go to the Brook Green Gardens for a night of 1,000 lights, I think tickets are still on sale, and it's a bit of a drive to go up to Litchfield, but they really, I believe, do one of the most beautiful light displays I've ever seen. And you can walk through, socially distanced, through these amazing gardens. And so that's also just a really beautiful experience. If you have the chance.
Adam, you reminded me of something when you talked about stories. I think especially during this time, we need to remember stories from our past and hold on to them. And in part of celebrating Advent and Christmas is us reaching back in our lives and remembering some of our own stories. And they can bring back some of that joy, memories. But we can also tell those stories to other people, kind of like we're doing today. And it's nice. My daughter, when she was young, I don't know how this started, but I'm sure this is pretty common to a lot of parents, but she would not go to bed until I told her a story. And what we figured out the best way to do it was I'd say, okay, what do you want the story about tonight? And she would tell me, and then I'd have to do an impromptu story. Mm-hmm. What I found is if I could kind of sing it to her, and make up a crazy kind of a poetry type of a story, and it was wonderful. And so Lynn and I, we're going to kind of, sadly, we're still going to distance ourselves from our family this Christmas. And so we're going to do FaceTime some of the things that we've done with them in the past. And part of what we're going to do is tell some stories and open maybe one present with whoever we're with. So I think we'll all figure out new ways of doing things this year.
Yeah, the nostalgia of Christmas past, I think, is a wonderful thing to allow yourself to embrace during the season. Those fond memories, I think, can be great gifts during the Christmas season. Mm-hmm. Laura, do you have other things to add?
One thing that's always important to me and Chris, whenever we both have a day for the same time, is we really like to get outside. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about Christmas, this is God breaking into history, and, the God of creation coming in human form in a really unique way. And so getting outside and getting into God's creation always gives me, no matter what time of year, it always gives me a little bit of perspective and a little bit of insight and a greater sense of connection to God. So at Christmas, a lot of times we'll try to go for a hike, go for a paddle, go for a walk on the beach. Even if you can get outside, night on Christmas Eve, being able to be outside under the stars, if it's clear and good weather, a place that is silent or close to silent, I think that can be very special and something I highly recommend trying to do at some point during the 12 days of Christmas, maybe not on Christmas Eve, but at some point, I think that could be really helpful.
So Laura, I want to ask you something. I've always wondered if this is me or if someone else has experienced this. I too have that wonderful desire to get out Christmas morning and just get outside. And I've done it every year, certainly as an adult. So it's something I just have to do. But I have always felt something incredibly special on that morning as I walked. That Christmas Day has something spiritually in the air that just isn't there another day that I would go for a walk. And I think it's very real. I think it's very something I can't see, but it's very tangible, holy, walking on Christmas morning.
Yeah, I would also say that a gift, an unexpected gift of this time for us clergy is that there have been times when normally we are frantically running around on these big days of the year. I can remember some Christmases early in my ordained life when I was having to travel on Christmas Day. Courtney went on ahead to be with her family down in Georgia, and I had to finish worship services up in Massachusetts where I was serving at the time. And I can remember having to fly on Christmas Day, which is sort of an interesting feeling when you're having to move to an airport on a day like that. And as much as we, of course, miss a lot of those in-church traditions, there have been some moments of grace in not having to be as frantic. And as you said, Christmas can be a time in which it can be meaningful to slow down. And I'm going to be grateful, I think, this Christmas for that, as whatever that quite means, given that we have a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 8-year-old. But I would also say too that there's a lot of fond Christmas movies that I enjoy watching, some of which I've watched for years, and I think also call to mind fond Christmases in ages past. But I think having a fire or being cozy at home and watching something that's familiar to you can also be a meaningful thing to do. Other thoughts?
I'm going to add a hike day and a beach day to our 12 days of Christmas. Thank you all.
I would also add that giving can be a wonderful thing to do, doing something for others. And I know that many of you have really jumped into our annual Angel Tree drive that Laura has been working with parishioner LaShawn Watson and Nicole Watson. And it is correct, Laura, that all the trees in our Angel Tree are now filled?
All of them are filled completely, and we've had a couple people volunteer to help deliver, even though we can't go inside the school or senior center. There's been a really beautiful one that's very surprising to me. I wasn't sure how this would go, being all online in a difficult year, but the generosity has been astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, so looking for opportunities, even in this distance time, even in a time when it might be unsafe to volunteer to do something in person, there are still ways for you or for you and your family or you and your children, I think, to remember that this season is also a season to spread cheer and spread the love of God that we have come to know in Jesus, particularly with those who are less fortunate than us. So looking for ways to give back, I think, can also be a meaningful thing to do. We are working hard as a staff, preparing for Christmas as best we are able. There are, of course, an array of upcoming online Christmas offerings. I would especially highlight the Christmas preludes that Wayne has been working on that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve. You won't want to miss that. For those who've been with us on Christmas Eve, those preludes are often opportunities for Wayne to just let his creative juices flow and to mash up modern songs with classic Christmas carols. And there'll be more of that, some old and some new, but we will have Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Feast of St. Stephen. Our feast day, of course, is the day after Christmas. All of that will be online, but we are also providing opportunities. We put that out recently to all of you to have some small, socially distant, masked in-person gatherings in the garden for those who would find that helpful and meaningful. We are taking every precaution, and we have a guide for the precautions that we would like people to take if they come to those services. But you do need to sign up for those services ahead of time. And we've sent those signups out. If you have trouble finding it, you can contact Amanda in our office, but we'll be offering a 5:30 and 7 p.m. Blue Christmas service on December the 21st, as is our tradition. We'll also do a Blue Christmas service online. And for those who don't know, a Blue Christmas is a tradition in a lot of churches, often offered on the 21st of December, the longest night of the year, to have a service to keep in mind that the holiday season even under normal circumstances, can be a difficult time for some people, and to really make the space for people to grieve. And we certainly feel like that is all the more important this year. So we'll have an online Blue Christmas service, but also an in-person in the garden at 5:30 and 7 p.m. And then on Christmas Eve, we will offer short services 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 p.m. That will conclude with the singing of Silent Night and the lighting of candles. And then after each of those Christmas Eve services, we'll open up the church. We'll have our nativity set out, Christmas poinsettias around the altar, and we'll invite folks in if they wish to simply be in our beloved space to pray briefly before exiting out the side door. We'll also offer 2 Christmas Day services at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. So please do know that those opportunities are there. But please also reach out to us, as always, if you are wanting some prayer during this time. We continue to try to reach out to you. We know this is a unique time, a challenging time in many ways. But despite that, know that you're very much in our prayers. Please keep your clergy team in yours. And we hope, however you are able to mark this season, that you have a very Merry Christmas, that you remember God's love in our world and in your life. And remember, Christmas is a 12-day season. And so you can say Merry Christmas and mark the season, that whole 12-day period. And we'll be back in January with another clergy conversation. Be well, be safe, and wear your mask, friends. Take care. Bye-bye.